Yeah.
Good morning, Holiness. I'm Suresh Jindal. On behalf of the Indian Sangha, I offer you a million prostrations. We are most grateful for your acceptance of our request for this wonderful and precious teaching. And also on behalf of the rest of the Sangha around the world. So every day, Holiness, we will have 5 questions from you, from Indian students. So that
Okay. No problem.
Thank you.
All answer.
Thank you, Holiness.
All answer here. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Holiness. Thank you, Holiness. Lots of long life to you, Holiness.
가셔서. 가. Now, in spite old age, now 85, 86, but still, my physical condition generally no problem. And I believe mainly my mental state always peace. No anxiety. And I think the one major factor is one Shanta Devas as a prayer. So long space remain, I will remain in order to serve sentient being. Then within this lifetime, like 4 sort of element, 4, 5, earth, water, air, fire, or heat, space, any space, you see, all as a sentient being sort of live on it. So similarly, I will be a sort of basis of entire sort of today.
For the sustenance.
Now here, this also the world. Sason Jong, Chambodan, Nangashin to Tabaraya, Semja Pakto Mebai, Nama Nirsu Shirian Shaw.
So as Master Nagarjuna says, may I be...
I always sort of pray. And determined.
Shantideva says, just like the great elements,
very purpose of our
and
life,
so forth, may I be a sustenance to the multitude of sentient beings.
Serving, not a physical level,
like the space,
but you see, serving, try to develop peace of mind, and that automatically reduce fear, and the fear reduce anger. So, therefore, I determined to live another 15, 20 years, about 20 years, like that. So I determined. Okay. Ta karenge. So now today, you asked me explanation about Matimika Avatara, Umanunjubwa.
Yes, entering the middle way.
I received also the explanation about Umanjubwa
This text,
from late
entering the
Lingling
middle way.
My about my bhikshu vow. So I have very good sort of lineage. And then the root text about Umanjubwa, from young age, as our tradition, memorizing. And Abhisamaya Alankara, Ngodoje. Oh,
No, clear
and
ornament for clear
these
realization
two
and
texts.
entering the middle way.
My case, I think 6-7 years old, already started to memorizing. I have no interest. Only interest is holiday. But gradually, I really found, you see, these texts, and also, you see, those, also those the Nalendra masters or also writing, which we learned, very, very useful. Particularly when we passing through difficult situation, you see, these teaching extremely useful. You see, to keep self-confidence and courage, like that. So now about Umanjubwa. I want to share why this text becomes something important. Reason: Buddha Shakyamuni, soon after he enlightened, you see, he taught Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, now Pali as well as Sanskrit tradition, all tradition, you see, this is common practice, Four Noble Truths. That is the basis of Buddha Dharma. Since any sentient being who have feeling do not want suffering, so Buddha says dukkha first, then kunjung kasa, the suffering
Origin.
and
Origin of suffering.
Then, very important sort of point, you see, he then mentioned third noble truth. That is Nirodha. Nirodha is complete elimination about the source of suffering, cause of suffering. Then, fourth, marg, path. So now important is we have to analyze or investigate the cessation of all these negative emotion, because the negative emotion is the causes of suffering. So now big question is, can we eliminate these
Causes of suffering.
we call kalesh,
Calacious. Afflictive, mental afflictions.
So now Buddha, although he briefly mentioned the possibility of cessation, then according Pali tradition, and then the 37 practice, the four
Factors of enlightenment. For mindfulness.
Mindfulness about physical. Physical is the sources of, basis of all these suffering, old age, illness, so on. Then mindfulness about our body momentarily changing. Then decade by decade, it will become older, like that. Liu Chabansha or Thaw Chabansha. Then
mindfulness of sensations, of feelings, and then
say
mind.
mindfulness about mind. So now here, you see, practice. We usually almost like the slave of senses of organs. So the senses of organs, 5 senses of organs, are, you see, entirely sort of depend on 6th mind, chit. Because the negative emotion also part of chit. Positive emotion also they're part of chit, 6th mind. So usually we not much pay attention about 6th mind. We just, you see, seeing, hearing these things. So now we have to meditate, mindfulness about chit. So that's quite important. So for that, we completely sort of what's today, ignore 5 senses of organs. Then the just main mind, 6th mind, chit. At the beginning, we often follow sense of organs. So now here we need a practice of meditation. Firstly, let's get the feeling of mind. Completely ignore about senses of organs. Just 6th mind. So at the beginning, our mind always follow the senses of organs. Here you say we need some effort with determination. I want to remain the 6th mind without following the sense of organs. Then at the beginning, you get a feeling something empty. Gradually, you get the feeling of clarity. So now, firstly, we should, because of that, we need some meditation on sixth mind.
The mental consciousness.
Few at the beginning, even few seconds, then few minutes, and then gradually few hours. Then you get the deeper experience about the very nature of mind. Then, see, very nature, one of the very nature of mind is clarity. Then with that mental quality, clarity, now, you see, utilize analytical meditation. First one, shamatha. Now, second, vipassana, analytical meditation. Now, analyze the field of analyze. You see, everything. Even scientists, you see, they material field, you see, in matter, they analyze. So, the analytical meditation, the vipassana, that is a real method. Change our mind. Without some sort of experience, single-pointed mind, difficult to practice analytical meditation. First, you know some experience, mindfulness. Then, through that way, the vipassana. Now here, all the philosophical views, or particularly philosophical views, analytical meditation is very, very essential. So now, here I feel, I notice, it's a Pali tradition, not much analytical sort of meditation, and not much philosophical sort of thinking, or not much use logical approach. Mainly, you see, believe Buddha's word. We are Buddhist, Buddha's follower. So whatever Buddha say, we must sort of follow that. Now, Nalanda tradition, since, you see, utilize logical approach, so even Buddha's own word, you see, we have to analyze. So Buddha himself, you see, clearly mentioned, "Oh, my follower, monks and nuns and so on, should not accept my teaching, simply faith, but must analyze." A Tibetan word,
Monks and scholars, just as the quote is tested by burning, rubbing, and cutting, you should examine my teaching thoroughly and accept it, not because you have faith in me.
Most of the religion is a belief, faith, whatever the God or Buddha say. But now here, the Nalanda tradition, on the basis of Buddha's own advice, you must analyze my teaching. So now, the Nalanda master, like Nagarjuna, or these great master. These are not only good monk, but also great scholar. They use extensively logical approach. Even Buddha's own word, they analyze. If you find some contradiction, then we have right to reject even Buddha's own word. So we usually, you see, so
definitive and interpretable teachings of the Buddha.
But according certain sort of what's the disciples' mental disposition, so he taught that we cannot accept literally like that. So Nagarjuna, usually I think whole Buddhist nation who follow Nalanda tradition, Sanskrit tradition, we consider Nagarjuna was second Buddha. Now, his writing, Madhyamika Mulakarika, his main text, wonderful. I always was familiar that often read. Then the Arya Deva, his main disciple, Arya Deva wrote 400 verses, Shibjapa. Actually 800. Then 400, one section, 400 mainly philosophical, sort of dealing philosophical things. So altogether 800.
400.
So now Nagarjuna mentioned
by eliminating the common delusions, there's liberation, and common delusions arise because of exaggerated view, and they are in turn rooted in grasping at elaborations.
Nirvana.
And that is ended by emptiness.
You have to eliminate all the root causes of destructive emotion. So he says,
therefore, elimination of karma and delusions, by eliminating that, there is liberation.
You reach nirvana. Reason,
this is because samsara, karma and
because of karma, samsaric karma. The karma, negative karma, karma which causing suffering, that's because of ignorance, because of kalesh,
mental afflictions.
So therefore, the all the destructive emotion eliminate, then you reach nirvana. Then the question, how eliminate the negative emotion? Because these emotion is very much based on the ultimate ignorance. That is, believe things exist as appears. Now here quantum physics also make distinction, appearance and deeper reality. So all the negative emotion, you see, on the basis of appearances. So the antidote of that ignore or should analyze these appearances are truly exist or not, go to deeper level. Then quantum physics also now clearly mention big differences, appearance and reality. So now the Nagarjuna's this word Teta Trele.
These afflictions arise from
negative emotion, very much so based
the exaggerated outlook
entirely based
arises
on
from
ignorance.
the elaborations, mental fabrications.
There's something wrong feeling, grasping as appears, something true. So now that grasping the negative emotion, wrong emotion, now can eliminate through the understanding deeper reality. Lada nyomo sebetar, lada nyomo namdole, teta trele, trebani, teta treles.
So
These wrong views,
exaggerated outlooks,
say,
the mental
believe
constructs,
as appears, and exaggerate these things, something good, something bad. These
they arise because of our
the wrong view.
fabrication.
That wrong view can eliminate by
Distorted
wisdom
views.
or understanding about deeper reality. Lada nyomo sebe tar.
So through
Lada
exhaustion of
nyomo
action and disturbing
Teta
emotions,
trele.
there is
Trele ni
liberation.
tombo ni
Actions and
tombo use.
disturbing emotions, afflictions are ensue from conceptual construct, which arise through mental
the essence
fabrication, and that is
the
ended
wrong
by
view
emptiness.
Cannot sort of remove or cannot change through faith, through prayer, but through analytical meditation. What's the reality? The reality, nothing exists as appears. Appears, now even quantum physics appears objectively. But if we investigate, nothing exists as appears. Now quantum physics also say, now analyze, then so long observer there, the things there. Then when no longer observer there, then very difficult to say things are there. So that's the quantum physics also now say that. Exactly Nagarjuna, she said, stated that. So now here, his main disciple, as I mentioned earlier, Arya Deva. Kasa. I know she given.
400.
Ka.
Kona timu jomigir.
Yeah. Three dozen is short tissue. Kodo.
His Holiness has marked page somewhere. Quote some lines from Arya Deva's perhaps 400 verses.
Oh, dear. Ayadeva and 400 verses mentioned
just like the physical faculty permeates all other faculties, likewise ignorance permeates all mental afflictions.
So the
eye faculty, ear, auditory faculty, and so forth are permeated by the physical faculty, whereas the eye faculty does not permeate the other faculties, such as ear faculty and so forth. So likewise, using that as an analogy, he says ignorance permeates all mental afflictions, disturbing emotions. Therefore, all mental afflictions or disturbing emotions can be destroyed by destroying ignorance. So the antidote to this ignorance, the fundamental ignorance, can become the antidote to the rest of the mental afflictions. So Master Chandrakirti also says that by that all the afflictive emotions arise because of holding on to or grasping at some true existence of the phenomena and self. So the root of all the afflictive emotions is this grasping at true existence in things and selves. And so we need to eliminate this ignorance. And therefore Aryadeva says, Aryadeva says, by seeing dependent origination, ignorance will not arise. Therefore, this must be taught right in the beginning with all effort. And therefore, the suffering is rooted in this ignorance, grasping at true existence in things. And therefore, we must cultivate the wisdom realizing selflessness in order to counter that. And therefore, the view of emptiness is not just a philosophical idea, but it is meant for countering this ignorance, which is the root of all mental afflictions and which are in turn the cause of all our sufferings. So when you are able to see that the things and self do not exist the way this ignorance grasping at true existence perceives and conceives, therefore when you eliminate this, the rest of the negative afflictions, the afflictive emotions will cease as well. And therefore, Aryadeva says one should right at the outset give teaching on this, the dependent origination. And so, Master Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamaka Karika and 400 verses of Aryadeva and their the commentary to Master Nagarjuna's text by Buddha Palita, the Buddha Palita commentary, and the text which explicates very precisely, thoroughly the intent of Master Nagarjuna's text, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, is Master Chandrakirti's Madhyamaka Avatara, and Master Chandrakirti himself becomes the one who precisely and thoroughly explicates Nagarjuna's text, and therefore his Madhyamaka Avatara is very important, and it's auto-commentary, Madhyamaka Avatara Bhashya, are very important. So I have memorized, as I said before, the Madhyamaka Avatara, and its Bhashya is a very precious text that Master Chandrakirti himself wrote. A valuable text. So though there are many followers of Nagarjuna, the explication on emptiness, precisely and thoroughly, is Master Chandrakirti. And Buddha Palita, of course, very good. His very short phrase which says, if things were to have any essence in and of themselves, what is the need for dependent origination and so forth? And then Master Nagarjuna's four Bhav Viveka, who wrote Madhyamaka Aloka, Pradhipa. So he says, things do have an objective existence, the way they appear to us. So he says, things appear to us the way they do exist, and therefore the appearance is true. And therefore we cannot analyze whether things do exist the way they appear or not. There is no need for this analysis. And so that quote actually comes from the text called The Two Truths, written by Gyanagarbha, I think. And so these masters, Bhaviveka and the author of The Two Truths, are the masters who were proponents of objective existence in things. So they say that things, with regard to the negation, when you establish the emptiness, the negation or the object of negation is that the things have some unique way of existence from their own side, not relying on a valid cognition, proposing that, or establishing that. So Master Chandrakirti says, if things were to have any existence in and of themselves, objective existence, and so he so there is this the quotation from Master Chandrakirti's text, which says that there would be four logical fallacies if you were to accept any objective existence in things. So, which are that the meditative equipoise mind of an Arya being would be a destroyer of entities and so forth. So this is the verse number 34 in chapter 6 of Master Chandrakirti. And so if things were to have any objective existence, he says that things should be found by this the Arya being's meditative equipoise, which is actually the mind which checks into whether things have any objective ultimate and existence or not. Therefore, if they were to have any objective existence in and of themselves, it should be found by this meditative equipoise mind of an Arya being. And therefore, these three texts And then there would also be the logical fallacy that the conventional reality or truth should be able to withstand the ultimate existence, analysis into the ultimate existence of things. But that's not the case. If you were to dissect an object down to its smallest particles, atoms, subatomic particles, and so forth, there's nothing you can actually pinpoint as being that object. And then similarly, it is the case with consciousness, because we talk about consciousness in terms of its continuity of a stream of consciousness. And therefore, the continuum of a consciousness, if you were to identify or pinpoint, of course, past is gone, future is yet to come, and then present, you cannot pinpoint that. It is the consciousness. This is the consciousness. Though we do actually conceive that consciousness is there, and we do establish it, and therefore, whatever things we come across, if we actually do this kind of analysis, dissecting the object, and therefore, Master Chandrakirti also says that things cannot be found when we analyze it in terms of the sevenfold reasoning or analysis of the chariot. But though they do not exist in that fashion, yet they do exist by way of conventions. And therefore, things, the Prasangika Madhyamakas say that things do exist by convention, but not in the ultimate sense. And therefore, Master Chandrakirti explicates this Master Nagarjuna's intention very thoroughly and precisely. Therefore, the reason why I made this prayer to the 17 Nalanda masters is because in the prayer, which is called the prayer to the 6 ornaments and 2 sublime masters, Master Chandrakirti and Chandideva are not there. And so I added them. I thought it would be good to add these masters as well. And then also Master Bhaviveka, I added. So when you actually make the distinction between the Sarvatantrika Madhyamakas and the Prasangika Madhyamakas, it is very important to understand how things are posited. So we in Tibet do practice Tantra, and every time we do the sadhana, daily yoga sadhana practice, we always come across everything dissolves into emptiness. And then in the Yamantaka Vajrabharava sadhana, we say I and all other things, phenomena, are merely designated. Because of being designated, and therefore Master Nagarjuna says, whatever is dependently arisen is said to be empty, and that is said to be in itself designated, and that is the middle way. And there is no phenomena which is not dependent, therefore there is no phenomena which is not empty. So when we say that things do not exist the way they appear to us, what we come to as a conclusion is that things do not have the existence, they do not exist the way they appear to us, but there is, though they are empty of any inherent existence, they still do exist by way of dependence. So dependence shows that things do not exist by their own power or of their own accord. And then arising shows that because of dependence on others, they do affect us, they do give rise to effects. And therefore, Dalai Lama Rinpoche says, so dependents do not deny the suchness, and arising do not deny the worldly convention. And therefore, this teaching on dependent origination given by the Buddha, because of that, he becomes the authoritative teacher. And therefore, in the Buddha's teaching, there is a division into the two truths. So there is a conventional reality or truth, which is to say that where the things exist when we do not do any kind of ultimate analysis into them. And then the ultimate reality is how things do exist. So when we do this how analysis or investigate how things exist, then we come across the understanding that things lack any ultimate or intrinsic existence, whereas the causality, the causes giving rise to effects, in other words, dependence in terms of causality, is something that is infallible in the world. So ultimate reality is taught to get rid of this strong clinging to some objective independent existence. And in order to understand how things work in the world, there is the conventional reality, teaching on the conventional reality. And so the Buddha taught these two truths with a great intention. And so when he taught the Four Noble Truths, first he went through the nature of the Four Noble Truths, and then in terms of the functionality of the Four Noble Truths, and then at the end, he says that though suffering must be understood, there's nothing to be understood. Though origin must be eliminated, there's nothing to be eliminated, and so forth. And therefore, this shows the two truths. And similarly with the cessation, although there is something to be attained, there's nothing to be attained. It should be attained, there's nothing to be attained. And although the path must be cultivated, there's nothing to be cultivated. And then the true cessation and so forth are also taught more thoroughly and precisely in the Prajnaparamita sutras. In the Heart Sutra, for example, we come across this phrase: form is emptiness, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, and form too is not other than emptiness. And so this is called the fourfold emptiness. And then it says the Buddhas of the three times become enlightened, fully enlightened, based on this wisdom of the emptiness, or wisdom of the perfection of wisdom. And then coupled with the that of the merit, we are able to eliminate not only the mental afflictions or destructive emotions, we can also get rid of their stains left by them. And so when we think along these lines of the teaching of the Buddha, beginning with his teaching on the Four Noble Truths, in which we find that there is cessation, true cessation, and then in the second turning of the wheel, where he teaches us that things have no intrinsic existence. All phenomena lack any intrinsic existence. It's marvelous. And then the final, the third turning of the wheel of Dharma.
Then
third turning of the wheel, within which there is the Sandhi-Nirmochana Sutra, Sutra unraveling the thought of the Buddha, where there is a distinction between the dependent origination being self-characterized phenomena and imputed phenomena being not having no self-defined characteristic. And so we are here to go through the Madhyamaka Avatara. And so entering the middle way. The middle way here refers to Mula Madhyamaka Karika. And so this text is leading us or introducing us to this Mula Madhyamaka Karika. So the first verse says, Shravakas and middle-level Buddhas arise from sovereign sages. Buddhas are born from bodhisattvas. And the compassion mind, non-dual cognition, as well as awakening mind, these are the causes of Buddhism. This is a big kind of a summary. So Shravakas and the middle-level Buddhas, referring to Pratyeka Buddhas, or they are born from the words or the teaching of the Buddha, the speech of the Buddha, the sovereign sages. And the state of enlightenment, Buddhahood, comes from bodhisattvas, are born from bodhisattvas. So there are bodhisattvas who are of separate continuum from the Buddhas, who teach them the path, as well as the bodhisattvas who are at the Trini level, who is of the same continuum of the practitioner, who first generate bodhicitta within themselves to become a bodhisattva, and then goes through this, the ordinary bodhisattva path, and then those of the Arya being bodhisattva path, and finally culminate into Buddhahood. And the cause for Buddhahood, the main or the primary cause is compassion, which holds others more dearer than oneself alone. So this bodhicitta is the source for one's own, to fulfill one's own goals as well as the goals of others. And so, if you want to be happy in this life as well, you must cultivate bodhicitta. You will have a happy mind and healthy body. And so, bodhicitta has its root in compassion. And in order to have this compassionate mind, a true, strong, compassionate mind, which is unshakable, we need to understand the non-dual truth. So when you understand that the ignorance grasping at true existence can be eliminated, you can understand that there is a possibility for attaining liberation. So then you get you actually develop the aspiration to reach that goal of elimination of all destructive emotions within oneself, from within one's mind stream. And then you also develop bodhicitta. So here, this awakening mind or bodhicitta refers to the stage where you are still cultivating bodhicitta, not the actual one, but at the stage of cultivation of it. And therefore, since compassion is very important in the beginning, middle, and end, the text says, as compassion alone is accepted to be the seed of the perfect harvest, but the water that nourishes it and the fruit that is long source of enjoyment, I'll praise compassion at the start of all. And so, because of this reason, the compassion being very important in the for the final attainment of Buddhahood, the harvest, the perfect harvest, and in the meantime to withstand all hardships and cultivate the path further, you need this compassion. And therefore, compassion is praised right in the beginning here. And so, we all have some compassion for, even down to the smallest insects or other animals. Everyone survives because of compassion or affection. So the 7 billion people on earth also, we are sustained by this love and affection. And this is the root of our happiness as well. The main root. It boils down to that. Our happiness boils down to that. And so we survive because of it. And therefore, whether you, even though you may not believe in religion, or you may even criticize religion, this love or compassion is something which is needed by all. So even the scientists today say that the sentient beings which depend on a community, a social animal, who are social animals, so long as you are a social animal, they say, you will have compassion to the community that you depend on, just like a child, just born child is dependent on its mother. This is which is natural. So for its own survival, for its the child depends on the mother, and therefore there is this bond. And so we talk about world peace. World peace must come through the inner peace. And the main cause for that is compassion. And therefore here Master Chandrakirti praises compassion in the beginning, which is very significant. And then there are different types of compassion. He says, first, with the thought, I am, they cling to a self. Then with the thought, mine, they become attached to things. Like the buckets of a water wheel, they turn without control. And I bow to compassion that cares for such suffering. And beings are like the reflections of a moon in rippling water, seeing them as fleeting and as devoid of intrinsic nature. And so, as I said before, this devoid of intrinsic nature refers to things having no independent objective existence. When you develop this compassion based on that kind of understanding, and this is an understanding, this is a compassion which is called compassion without referent point. And so the Bodhisattva's mind falls under compassion's sway, yearning to set free every transmigrating being. Through intense dedication with Samandabhadra's prayers, he abides in perfect joy. So having actually become understood what enlightenment means, and developing this path, it says, through the intense dedication with Samanda prayers, he abides in perfect joy, the first ground of bodhisattvas. From that point on, having attained this ground, he is hailed by his name, Bodhisattva alone. And then next verse. And so by reflecting on compassion very well, wishing to liberate other sentient beings and actually wanting to protect them, and with the help of one's understanding of the philosophical view of emptiness or selflessness, you develop compassion. And which means that you understand that the root of suffering is afflictive emotions, and which are mere adventitious factors within our mind, and not a permanent characteristic or quality of mind. But because the mind itself, its intrinsic in its intrinsic nature is clarity and awareness. So these disturbing emotions, because they arise on the basis of this grasping at true existence, this fundamental ignorance, and therefore when you see that there is possibility to overcome it, you will be able to understand the possibility for attaining enlightenment, Buddhahood. And so verse number 6. He is born into the lineage of the Tathagatas as well. He has utterly purged the three binding factors. Such a bodhisattva upholds a state of supreme joy and has the power to shake 100 worlds. And then stepping on from one ground to another, he travels perfectly to the highest one. And so, having developed the single-pointed concentration, then on the basis of that, one develops this, the vipassana, the penetrative insight into emptiness, and enter into the path from the, go on from the path of accumulation to the path of preparation, and then you further push yourself in your practice, and you see that of emptiness directly, which is the path of seeing.
수놈다가 왕게 파면 넘버 펠스 와다 이네 냐나 소버드제 아니 냐나 아니 리기고는 세지는 봐.
So the bodhisattvas on the first ground are said to outshine those of the Shravakas just because of being born into the bodhisattva lineage. And then in the when you reach the path, the seventh ground, it is said that you outshine them out of your intelligence, by way of your intelligence or insight, which is the ground called gone afar. So verse number 8 is done. So even when abiding in the first ground of the mindful awakening, he surpasses those born of the sage's speech and the Pratyeka Buddhas through the power of his merit. And his merit increases evermore. And when gone afar, he'll also surpass them by his intelligence. And so there is these lines refer to the bodhisattvas on the first ground outshining those of the Pratyeka Buddhas and the Shravakas because of being born into the lineage of the Buddha, and whereas the just being born into the Buddha's lineage does not make them able to outshine the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, but by way of their intelligence. And so in the Madhyamaka Avatara Bhashya, it says that there he quotes, Chandrakirti quotes some lines from the sutras and says that this shows clearly that the Shravakas and the Pratyeka Buddhas do have the insight into emptiness. And the Arya Bodhisattvas are able to outshine them, these Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, by intelligence when they reach the seventh ground called gone afar.
랑글르 넘버 7장 시진 넘버 줄라스 즉시 다디네 치르버신도 디자기 감수는 집에 차제선서 빵왕야 민주로스 되네디 술로서 랑고올 미베 치르로도 줄베 치 가사가 다음에 또 봐야 민주데스 어디 계속 수송도
So these points that Master Chandrakirti makes in his Madhyamaka Avatara Bhashya are very important. So without having this understanding and insight into the selflessness of phenomena, he says you will not be able to understand or gain insight into the selflessness of persons fully. So because of still having this grasping at some form of intrinsic existence in the aggregates, you still are not able to gain full insight into selflessness of persons. So, though I do not have much experience, about 50 years ago perhaps, when I was reading Madhyamaka Avatar, Master Tsongkhapa's commentary on Madhyamaka Avatara, where he goes through this analysis that a person is neither one with the aggregates nor separate from, but a person is merely in name. And there was this lightning kind of a striking in me, and literally I felt some kind of a lightning sort of thing striking in my heart. And so when I thought about things, when I reflected later, changing my focus to the body and the aggregates, I couldn't have that same kind of insight as I had when I thought about the self. And so, as Master Nagarjuna says, as long as there is grasping at the aggregates, there is still this clinging to an I. And because of that, there is karma. And then there is rebirth. And so, after that experience of a lightning striking, a lightning sort of striking in my heart, when I looked at other people or myself, I actually was able to see them like an illusion, that there is nothing really solid or tangible there. And then when I actually checked my understanding or insight with reference to the body and aggregates, I didn't have the same kind of experience. And therefore, I was able to confirm or find that I only had an insight into selflessness, which is a coarse level of selflessness. And therefore, when you have this sense of an I, it is based on the aggregates, this Bhashya says. As Master Nagarjuna also says in the Ratnavali, a person is neither the five elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, and consciousness as well. And what else is a person? So that is the quotation. And so because of the 12 links of dependent origination, we circle around within this samsara. And there is no beginning, end, and middle in this circle in samsara. So though you may have gained insight into the fact that there is no self which is a governor over the aggregates, yet you will not still be able to gain insight into the self-lessness as such.
No question. Question?
Please bring up your questions.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Tashidele.
Marzele.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for this teaching. I have a question in the context of relationship which become abusive, whether the relationship is between a husband and wife, or it is between nations like China and Tibet, when staying also causes suffering and leaving also causes suffering, then what is the compassionate way? What is the middle way? Is there a nirodha? Is there a marga? When there is conflict of compassion for other person and compassion for self, two different courses of action, then what is the middle way? Is there a middle way possible? Thank you, Your Holiness.
Now practice. Now tushung.
So you need to develop understanding based on listening to teachings and reflection and then meditation. So when you talk about emptiness, compassion and bodhicitta, you of course read books, and also your Dharma friends also explain them to you, and so these you gain understanding from such teachings and listening to others. So you may feel admiration saying, oh, this is wonderful, this is this, this is that, but it will not still bring some transformation within yourself. But what you need is that of the reflection through analytical, through analysis, through reasoning. And through that reflection, by using reasoning, you will gain conviction in these points. And then that will slowly bring about some transformation within yourself. And you need to continually, with this conviction, this trust from the depths of your heart, seeing that there is some significance in these points. And then you need to, when you meditate on these points day and night, over and over again, as Tsongkhapa said, found that there is no way, no other way to gain true experience unless you do purification practices as well as accumulation of merits, as Tsongkhapa himself found that, and also was advised by Lord Manjushri to go into retreat. And therefore, mere hearing the teachings and understanding based on it and understanding based on reflection is not enough. But you need to cultivate these experiences within yourself through meditation. So with the understanding based merely on hearing the teachings or studying them, in Tibet there are sayings. I mean, you may even say that, we have a saying in Tibet which says, of course the Buddha Dharma says that, but I mean, we have to live our life, make our living. And so we may have some understanding through listening to teachings, but using that understanding based on hearing or listening to teachings, and then going through the process of reflection day and night, whatever you have heard should turn or into some kind of a conviction within yourself. And so many of us remain on the level of hearing the teaching, understanding based on hearing the teachings. And so you may be able to explain to others, but what we need is the accumulation of both the merit and wisdom. And so you develop experience, and then that experience will make transformation within yourself, bring about transformation. The big monks in the big monastic institutions of learning may have a good understanding based on hearing the teachings, but there are very few who have developed understanding based on reflection and emptiness. So Yangde Rinpoche is clarifying the question to His Holiness again. So when you are compassionate, we have a very strong compassion towards others. In order to fulfill the aims of oneself and others, I shall generate bodhicitta. So when you have compassionate mind, compassion, you are able to help others as well as oneself. This is the best method to help yourself, by helping others. So this is my experience as well. So when you think of benefiting others, this is the source of happiness for me, even with regard to one's enemy. As Shantideva says, that your enemy is your spiritual teacher. And so this gives some sense of relaxation or within yourself. It gives relief within yourself, this compassion. So when you are able to dedicate yourself for the benefit of others, you will be able to fulfill your goal fully.
Next
So
question, Holiness, is from
compassion for others is the source of fulfillment.
Good morning, Your Holiness. My name is Tandan Hiskit and I'm from Ladakh. I'm studying in Ladakh Public School and I'm 15 years old. So my question is, what is the difference between the compassion that comes from the understanding of the fact that all sentient beings suffer and the compassion that one experiences from the knowledge that all sentient beings, being impermanent by nature, take birth and die? Thank you, Your Holiness.
So the compassionate mind is actually dedicated towards the benefiting others. So with compassion, you focus your mind on sentient beings, and with wisdom, some texts mention this, with wisdom you focus your mind on enlightenment. So when you actually wish all sentient beings to be free from suffering, of course, without actually knowing and understanding that there is a possibility for them to be free from suffering, it's just a prayer and not a conviction. It doesn't come through a conviction based on valid understanding and knowledge. And therefore, with wisdom, you focus on emptiness. Means that you need both the compassion and wisdom complementing each other. So otherwise, with mere compassion, you may feel, oh, how bad this sentient being is suffering. But with wisdom, you see the possibility to be free from suffering. And therefore, the compassion is validly based on this knowledge.
Next question, Holiness, is from Gurshan Singh from Srinagar. He's a school student.
Good morning, Your Holiness. I am Gurshan Singh from Srinagar and I am a student of Ladakh Public School. So, Your Holiness, my question is that it is possible to explain wisdom and skillfulness in context of two truths without touching any religious sentiments, Your Holiness.
This is possible. The two truths. When we talk about two truths, we talk about things in terms of their appearance. So on the basis of appearance, there is a conventional truth. And then when you actually go into the deeper reality of truth of these appearances, there is the ultimate truth. And so when we think of helping others, benefiting others, with warm heart, compassion, it's not like just jumping into some conclusion without understanding the fact that there is a possibility to help others out of suffering. And so for that, we need the wisdom or intelligence. So when you think about helping others out of suffering with compassion, you need to see that it is possible to free them from suffering. So in the world, when we look at the world, of course, there is so much suffering on the basis of the gap between rich and poor. And so there's a big gap between rich and poor. So because of the neglect that are faced by the poor, and the poor people suffering. And today, because of the pandemic, for example, we see a lot of people suffering, but just feeling desperate and stuck with compassion is not enough. So we need to have compassion, seeing that there's a possibility for overcoming this pandemic by way of taking precautionary measures and others. And so with wisdom, you use the wisdom to understand there are precautionary measures and other things that you can do to help the pandemic. And therefore, we can talk about the true truth in terms of these kind of suffering in the world. So not just having a good heart, but to have this, using this human intelligence, we try to find what are the causes of this suffering, the pandemic, and so forth, and then accordingly act to eliminate and overcome the pandemic and so forth. So we use both these together.
From Dharamsala.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Your Holiness, my name is Atisha from IBD in Dharamsala. Your Holiness, my question is, for the Prasangika school, they say that a mind analyzing the ultimate nature of something like a person doesn't find it in its parts, and therefore it negates the objective existence of a person. But how come it doesn't negate also just the existence of a person? And then they also say that a mind, because it cannot find things in its parts, it is dependent on its parts. And then because it is dependent, it cannot be objective. But even the other Buddhist schools, they do say that it is not findable in its parts and it's dependent on its parts. But while saying it is dependent on its parts, they somehow cannot say that it is not objectively existent. So why is there this difference? Thank you, Your Holiness.
So in the Madhyamaka it says, so verse number 167 in the 6th chapter talks about when you analyze things in terms of the sevenfold analysis of the chariot, nothing can be found, such as qualities and parts and branches and attachment and so forth. But things do still have their existence by way of worldly conventions. So, for example, if you take the example of this table, of course, when you break the table apart mentally into its different parts, the legs, the top, and so forth, you may not be able to have anything that you can pinpoint as being the table. But Domtempa says that, of course, in the ultimate analysis, you will not find the hand nor the fire. But when you actually put your hand in the fire, it'll burn. And so this shows that there's a conventional reality of the hand and fire. And what happens to us, what our mistake is that the fire and the hands have some kind of objective, independent existence. And therefore, we need to differentiate between how things exist by way of convention and how they appear to us. They appear as if they have some kind of objective, independent existence. And when you are able to actually say that, oh, these do appear like that, but there is no such an existence, then that helps you to see the reality, so because of our exaggerated outlook on things, there is this growth of the mental afflictions. And this exaggerated outlook, in turn, is based on our perception or conception that things have some kind of objective existence in and of themselves. And so some Kensu University students of quantum physics today, some of them have said that having studied quantum physics and found that things have no objective existence, when they are able to confirm that, it helps to reduce or to reduce the holding on to, grasping at some kind of an objective, independent existence in things. So because we have this appearance, there is this appearance of things having some objective existence, and we hold on to it, there is this grasping at true existence. And then the negative emotions also arise. And so understanding that things have no objective in this existence will help you reduce your negative emotions, this destructive, afflictive emotions. And you are studying here at IBD, Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. And you should continue your studies and become a Mahapandita, a great scholar.
Thank you.
Last question, Holiness, from Professor Kaveri Gill from Delhi, Holiness.
Good morning, Your Holiness. I'm Kaveri Gill, and I teach in Delhi, and I'm a student of Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdol at Tibet House. Thank you for sending him to us to teach us in English, Your Holiness. My question today is, how do we know that the object of negation of selflessness of person is correct? That is to say that we are not confusing the emptiness of autonomous substantial reality with emptiness of objective existence. Tukchenna, Your Holiness.
So I have actually related my own experience earlier. So in my experience, 50 years or so ago, I actually came to the conclusion that myself is not separate from the aggregates. And when I come across, when I was reading the Gongpa Rapsel, the Master Tsongkhapa's commentary, that experience happened. And that's actually, I later found out that I was able to negate the substantially, self-sufficiently existent self, the autonomous substantial reality. Whereas when you check this experience against Master Nagarjuna's saying that as long as there's grasping at aggregates, there's still grasping at self. So to be able to gain insight, to have the insight into this person having no intrinsic or inherent existence, and so when you see that the aggregates do not have any intrinsic or inherent existence, then you are able to conclude that, of course, the person which is designated on the basis of these aggregates cannot have any intrinsic inherent existence. I mean, that's when you actually gain insight into the actual emptiness of a person. So where is the person apart from the body and the other aggregates? Of course, Chittamatras do posit the Alaya Vijnana as the entity of a self, and the Savatantrika Madhyamakas, the sixth consciousness, as the instance of a person, identity of a person, because they are not able to identify a person within the sensory perceptions, and therefore they point to this sixth consciousness. So though these philosophical schools, Chittamatra and the Savatantrika Madhyamakas, do posit some self from within the aggregates, this just Prasangikas conclude that there's nothing whatever that you can posit as being the self from within the aggregates. So when you are able to say that things do not exist the way they appear to us, just as quantum physics says, this also can help to gain insight into how things have no intrinsic existence. And because there is the appearance of objective existence, and then we accordingly cling on to that, there is the exaggerated outlook on things. And so, as I said before, this understanding of the quantum physics saying no objective existence is there can help gain understanding and insight into this the selflessness of persons and phenomena.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Holiness. Very kind of you from the Indian Sangha's behalf and the International Sangha's behalf. And please, may you live 111 years, Holiness.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
So, these things, I myself, I think at least about Shunyata, at least I think 60 years, I seriously thinking. And then Bodhicitta, at least 50 years. So these are, you see, take time, but regularly, whether you call meditate or analyze, and familiarize. Then our main mind, since Kasoda, beginningless, these nyomo or
Afflictive emotions,
really dominant,
kleshas.
So not easy to
eliminate, to overcome, to reduce their intensity.
So, beginningless, those nyomo, beginningless,
these afflictive emotions or mental afflictions, and altruism, bodhicitta,
wisdom about, you see,
reality,
because of the shunyata,
emptiness,
50, 60 years. So it is not easy, but make effort. According to my own experience, you see, decade by decade, truly changing our mental attitude. Result, genuine peace of mind come. Okay. So you, my spiritual brothers, sisters, also you see, should not have some kind of too much expectation. Buddha himself, Changmisum,
so three countless eons, worked over three countless eons,
you see these
the great eons,
and like Lama Tsongkhapa, you see, great effort. Then gradually he developed genuine sort of spiritual because of the
realizations.
Experiences. So we should make effort constantly. In my own case, as soon as I wake up and thinking, where's I? When I walking, where's I? My physical walking, but where is I? Nothing. At the meantime, you see, I is there. So then, just Mingde Shaksam said.
So therefore, things are merely, you come across a conclusion, you come to conclude things are merely designated.
I always remember altruism. Very good, very helpful. So you also, we all have the
seed for Buddhahood, Buddha nature. Yeah. So because we have the essence of the Buddha, so as we have these texts written by the master, the great masters of India, and this quotation says, because from the Mahayana Uttara Tantra, because the perfectly enlightened body radiates, because there is no difference in the reality as it is, and because of the existence of the potential of family trait, all embodied sentient beings have the essence of Buddhahood. And therefore, because the emptiness, the nature of emptiness of the mind of a Buddha and the emptiness of the mind of sentient beings have no difference, so they are same, which is to say, because there is no difference in the reality as it is. And then the potential for the family trait exists within us, which is the Buddha nature, or Tathagata Garbha, or Sugata Hridaya. We all have this. So when I do some kind of a sadhana, and when I meditate or visualize the directional protectors and so forth, I always think along these lines that we have the same potential for Buddhahood. The mind, emptiness nature of the mind of these beings and me are same, and therefore it helps.
See you again.
Thank you. You are the new one.
Thank you, Holiness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.